So we did discuss the North Carolina statute at our owners meeting, and let me begin by saying there's a long track record in this league of being in the forefront on issues impacting human rights and discrimination. And of course this league, and I think I speak for all leagues, is against discrimination in any form. And there were no votes taken in the room, but it was unanimous among our owners that we stand united being against any form of discrimination for any group in our society. The law as it now stands in North Carolina is problematic for the league. There was no discussion of moving the All-Star game. What the view in the room was, we should be working towards change in North Carolina. I have been working very closely with the Charlotte Hornets, with Fred Whitfield, who's the president of the team, and together with ownership down there, to seek to effect change in North Carolina. I would say it's a complicated issue for the league because, of course, what the situation in North Carolina is that the city of Charlotte passed an ordinance, and that ordinance was in essence overturned by the state of North Carolina. So this is an intra-North Carolina dispute. I would say I'm very familiar with the state of North Carolina. I went to college in North Carolina. We do a lot of business in North Carolina through the Charlotte Hornets, and I have great faith in the people of North Carolina. And I think the best role for the league to play here is through constructive engagement towards change, not setting deadlines, not making ultimatums, but working with the private sector and the government to effect change in North Carolina. Let me add that one of the things that makes this issue so complicated for us is that we recognize we don't live in North Carolina, and we do business not just throughout the United States, but across the globe. And while we want to make sure we operate in a non-discriminatory environment, we also have to be respectful of the people of North Carolina. And let me say, my concern here is that it would be easy, in a way, to grandstand here and announce we are moving the All-Star game, even though that game is not scheduled to take place for 10 months. The issue for us, and maybe this is different than where some of the other businesses find themselves in North Carolina, is that we have a team in North Carolina. And that distinction, for example, between the All-Star game and the regular operation of the team is not clear to me. I mean, for example, we have a playoff game in Charlotte, North Carolina, in roughly a week from now. And I'm not sure what statement we would be saying about our team, or we'd be making about our team in North Carolina if we now announced that the All-Star game would not take place in North Carolina, but our team continued to operate there. So, I think we as a league are in the best position to effect change by working with the government, by working with the private sector. And I'll say over the last few weeks, I'm not going to be specific, but I've talked to many people in government, outside of government in North Carolina, and the view is there is a constructive role for the NbA to play. And I think that if we were to announce that we were moving our All-Star game now, first of all, I'm not sure what incentive would be left for the legislatures in North Carolina to change the law if we announce now that we were moving our game. And number two, I think sports leagues play a unique role in our society. We're not just like any other business. And I think people look to sports, look to the NbA in particular, to set a standard, to set a tone. And I think part of that tone is that we have to listen. We have to understand all perspectives here. And as Governor McCrory has said, he thinks there's enormous misunderstanding about this law. I would say I also believe there's enormous misunderstanding here about this law. I frankly am not even sure I understand the genesis of this law. I don't understand why the legislature felt the need for this law. And I would say I'm very concerned about singling out any minority group. In this case, minority groups based on sexual orientation or gender identification. The league believes that these groups need to be protected, but again, I think the right way towards work to the proper resolution here is for the league to remain engaged in the conversation rather than setting ultimatums or announcing we're not going to play our All-Star game in Charlotte.